Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Season 9, Episode 41, overall 481 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out their website, barrycullen.com, for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac products as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210. Tell them Chris Palme sent you, or you can email them at info@barrycullen.com. Barry Cullen Chevrolet has been family run and operated in the city of Guelph since 1969, and they have been a proud sponsor of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show since September 2022. Also, Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is brought to you by Wellington Brewery at 950 Woodlawn Road West here in Guelph, Ontario. Check out their website, wellingtonbrewery.ca. Try a Welly on, and please remember to drink responsibly. And Wellington Brewery is celebrating their 40th year here as a local craft brewery in Canada, one of the oldest as well. I hope everyone's doing well on this Thursday, January 16th, 2025. And I'm looking forward to my guest today. This is going to be his third time on our show. His name is Baligian. He's a longtime Detroit radio media personality, and he's also the play-by-play voice of the Wayne State Warriors football team as well. And we're going to bring on Sean, and we're going to talk Lions, Commanders, some NFL playoffs, and maybe a little bit about Wayne State, who finished their season off with back-to-back wins as well. We're going to bring on Sean Baligian, who's also the former voice of the OHL's Plymouth Whalers. Good afternoon, Sean. How you doing?
Nice to talk with you again, Chris, and hello to all my friends up in Guelph. I really miss my time in the OHL, to be sure.
Absolutely, and I think the OHL might be looking at another American franchise, so we'll see. Fingers crossed with that. But hey, it's a great time of the year right now, Sean, and lots going on. Before we get into the Lions and Commanders, do you have any Bob Uecker story, since Bob Uecker today passed away at the age of 90?
You know, I never got a chance to meet him. I was at a Brewers game in the summer. Me and a couple buddies decided to go finally see Miller Park. That's something I've done with my son for many, many years, is take him to different parks. And, for whatever reason, we didn't make it up there. And it was just funny to see the legend walking around in the catacombs, if you will, and the catwalk upstairs. And he meant so much to the game. Like I said, I never got a chance to meet him, but he meant so much to the game. And some of my earliest memories as a sports fan were those classic Miller Lite commercials where Bob Uecker always had a prominent position in those commercials. So, yeah, he will definitely be missed. No doubt about that.
The voice of the Milwaukee Brewers for over 50 years, since 1971. And to me, he is the heart and soul of the Milwaukee Brewers. And also, he was on a TV show called Mr. Belvedere, and he did commercials, like you said. And to me, he's the face of Major League Baseball, and it's just a shame he passed away at the age of 90. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on Bob Uecker and how good of a broadcaster he was too.
Yeah, legend. And you know what? He kept things fun. That's always been something for me. Whether I was doing radio or television or whatever the case may be, I always want to have fun. And sports are not as serious as sometimes we make them out to be. It's a whole heck of a lot of fun. And certainly this time of year exemplifies that.
Hopefully Major League Baseball will come up with an award under Bob Uecker's name in the future going forward.
Yeah, that would be great. Give it to a guy with personality or something like that, because the guy, he wasn't short on personality, that's to be sure.
He's to the Brewers that what the late Ernie Harwell was to the Detroit Tigers. As soon as you hear his voice, you automatically think Tigers baseball, Milwaukee Brewers baseball, and he had such an impact on Major League Baseball. I know he was only a catcher for 6 years, but broadcaster for over 50 plus years and represented the game well.
Sure did. And one of those guys that seemed larger than life. He went on a lot of the talk show circuits here in the States. He was a mainstay on I know Carson and lots of stories from the David Letterman show as well. But no doubt we'll miss him.
Absolutely. And I wanted to bring this up with you too. The Detroit Tigers new announcer who came over from Chicago, I believe he's winning an award for Michigan Sportscaster of the Year, Jason Benetti. Have you had a chance to meet him yet?
Yeah, a great guy. Obviously, calls a great game, and he's another guy that I think, Chris, we were just talking about, kind of exemplifies the have fun. The have fun aspect, and he's having a lot of fun. And I think, let's be honest, everybody was having a little fun, right? This past season with the Tigers.
Absolutely. Hey, speaking of Detroit right now, look at the sports. The Michigan Wolverines ended up the season on a positive, beating Ohio State and Alabama, and finishing on a positive. The Detroit Tigers had a nice, good playoff run. The Pistons have been the biggest surprise in the NBA this year. The Red Wings are 7-2 under Todd McCullough. Came back to earth against San Jose the other night, so we'll see if they can get back on the winning ways tonight. And then we've got the Detroit Lions, who are only one win away from the NFC Championship game, Sean. And thoughts on the Lions and Commanders and this 2024 Detroit Lions team that's faced a lot of adversity with a lot of key injuries on their defense, especially.
It is amazing that they are at this point and how they're doing it as well. When you take a look at all the injuries, as you mentioned on the defensive side of the ball, I think a lot of people, whether they want to admit it or not, thought 3-4 weeks ago, gosh darn it, this year it's just not going to happen. And then, boy, they battened down the hatches against the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, that performance was tremendous. Cannot say enough about what Aaron Glenn does. It's incredible. And I think only recently, I know everybody wanted to talk about Johnson, and rightfully so. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Ben's done a tremendous job, but I think what AG has done with this defense, in particular with some of those losses, it's been remarkable. It really was. I think the Buffalo game was a game where we said, okay, it finally caught up to them, right? And then they shut down the Bears. And then in the biggest game of the year, they shut down the Vikings. And it has been fascinating to watch. And now all of a sudden they're getting a little healthier. I can't put into words the impact that Alex Anzalone has on this defense. I think we all saw that play out in that Minnesota game. The Commanders are going to bring certainly a difficult set of circumstances to deal with, but the one thing about the Lions, especially at Ford Field, man, it gets so loud, and they seem to feed off of that energy coming from the crowd.
Sean, I want to get into this too about the Vikings. Do you feel the Lions broke the Vikings because the Vikings they never showed up against the LA Rams? I know the Rams are getting hot right now, but did they find a blueprint for Sam Darnold and the Vikings, obviously with that loss and then being eliminated by the Rams?
Well, he certainly looked like a guy that was seeing ghosts. There's no doubt about that. It was a situation to me where I'll be quite honest with you, Chris. When you look back at the season, Minnesota started out 5-0, and then they lost to the Lions, and then the next week lost to the Rams. Then they won 9 in a row, and then they lost to the Lions. And then a week later lost to the Rams. So it's kind of weird how that plays itself out. There was some strange symmetry there. Can we say that they broke the Vikings? I don't know if I'm going to go that far. You give the Vikings credit. They took advantage of the schedule that they had. I think more they exposed the Vikings. The Vikings were a good team. Give them their flowers. No doubt about that. They were a good team. But were they going to go compete with the hierarchy of the NFC this year? The Phillies, and the Phillies, the Eagles, the Rams, and the Lions. No, that wasn't going to happen. So I think if anything, maybe expose them would be the word that I would use.
As an outsider, I want to get your opinion on this. Do the Washington Commanders remind you of the Detroit Lions from last year?
Not really, and I'll tell you why. I think what Jaden Daniels brings to the table, everything in the National Football League is about your quarterback. I mean, we all know
Absolutely.
that. Nobody's going to argue it anymore. I mean, there was a time not that long ago, Chris, I was telling people, you guys, this isn't the same league that we grew up with. I mean, the rule changes, the way the game is called. So in that regard, starting with the quarterback, no, but in other ways, yes. Maybe they're a year ahead of schedule. Maybe that, wow, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and they don't know what they don't know. And I think a little bit of that was going on with the Lions last year, going into that NFC championship game with Frisco. I think there was a little bit of that going on. And perhaps there's a little bit of that going on right now as well with the Washington Commanders. This is going to be their toughest battle. It just is, and that's no disrespect. I see what cap you're wearing. That's no disrespect to the Eagles. I mean, the Lions finished number one in the conference, and I think so. When you couple that with going there, like I would feel real comfortable if I had the Commanders at home. You know what I mean? When Washington got Philly late in the season, it was on the road. It was with your starting quarterback out. There were a bunch of sets of circumstances that kind of led to that. Right now, the Lions offensively are very healthy. They've got arguably the best line in the league.
I'd say second best. I'm a little biased, but obviously I do feel the Lions and the Eagles have the two best offensive lines.
Yeah, like I said, arguably. I mean, I would be willing to have that conversation. Yeah. You have two guys that can hurt you in different ways, and in David Montgomery, who's going to be back. Now, let's see how close to 100% he is, and obviously Jahmyr Gibbs, where if anybody has any lingering questions about Jahmyr Gibbs at this point in time, it's your fault. It's not his fault anymore.
No. Absolutely, and they're a scary duel. Montgomery didn't get surgery, so I just want to know how much of a workload are they going to give him coming back off that injury? I think he suffered it against the Buffalo Bills.
$1 million question. I don't know. I think that has been the question all week long is, okay, how close to David Montgomery is he going to be, especially with the way, boy, he runs so hard. It's so fun to watch him. So I think this is just going to be a wait and see. He's definitely going to get some looks. He wouldn't be out there without getting any looks. But yeah, your guess is as good as mine, man. I'm serious. I really, truly don't even know.
How do you feel Dan Campbell will have this team? Obviously, last year they were the media darlings and they were the underdogs. This year they are the favorites and they're getting all the national attention. The Washington Commanders weren't even really supposed to make the playoffs this year, and Washington's kind of playing with house money. How does Campbell keep this team focused and grounded? And to me, this Commanders team is dangerous. And but they do have one weakness on their defensive side of the ball. You can run on them, and I expect Gibbs, and I don't know how much Montgomery will get, but I do think Washington can be run on. But just wanted to get your thoughts on the Lions being the favorites compared to last year.
You know what? It's almost like let me start with that which you just spoke of. It's almost like in hockey, when you have a puck possession team, right? If the puck is on your stick more often than not, I like your chance of winning. And that's the way that I kind of look at this game. I think the Lions, everybody knows that Washington can be run on, and everybody knows that the Lions can run. And I think you're going to see some ball possession there, and that way you're hopefully keeping a dangerous quarterback off the field as much as humanly possible, eating clock, and in true Dan Campbell fashion, finishing with 7s and not 3s. But I think the smartest thing that Dan Campbell did was after the NFC Championship loss to Frisco last year, he spoke very bluntly. He said, it's not that easy to get back to this point. And I know a lot of fans out there, fans were up in arms, Chris. Let me tell you something. We had to deal with that for a few weeks. And I said, listen to what he's saying. He isn't lying. There's no guarantee that they're going to be in this spot next year at this time. I'll use a couple examples. If you told me 4 years ago Josh Allen wouldn't have been to a Super Bowl, I would have laughed at you. If you said the same thing about Lamar Jackson, I would have laughed at you. And you've lived it with Philly. As
Yeah.
solid as those teams have been the last few years, they haven't
Yep.
been able to punch their ticket back. It's not as easy as
No.
people make it out to be, unless you're the Kansas City Chiefs, of course. So I thought that Dan Campbell threw down the gauntlet immediately. And I think the players took to that. And quite frankly, I think the fans begrudgingly took to that as well. So I think that was a huge factor of just keeping their heads on straight and keeping them focused on the goal. And media, we can look ahead. The players, they don't like to look ahead. They don't want to think about the NFC Championship game. They're thinking about this game against Washington Saturday at 8:00.
What is Dan Campbell's biggest strengths as head coach of the Detroit Lions, Sean?
Being able to relate to the guys, period. End of story. There's no doubt about it. To a man, those guys, they love when Dan Campbell goes for it. And let's face it, Dan Campbell, in a way, has changed the game of football. You're seeing guys go for fourth down all over the place, not only in the NFL, but in college and even into the high school ranks. So that's huge. The belief in the guys, and the guys believe in him. And I think he's done a kind of a slow play as well with the I'm a big, tough meathead guy. This guy's been very cerebral. He has surrounded himself with guys that think the game differently. And it's no surprise that, his two coordinators are two of the hottest names out there in Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. So, it's a combination of things. But for me, Chris, it's the C word. It's culture. And, this was, trust me, all the years that I did pregame shows on television and postgame shows on radio and did all those things, that place was like a morgue in mid-November. The season was over. He's changed the culture. He believes in those guys, and those guys in turn believe in him.
Well, it's funny, in Philadelphia, Nick Sirianni came to Philly the same time as Campbell, and people in Philly wanted Sirianni fired, and all he's done is win there in 4 years and taken him to a Super Bowl. I know Sirianni's style is a little different from Dan Campbell's, but Sirianni on fourth down will go for it. And the Eagles are probably, after the Lions, they're probably the second most team to gamble on fourth down and stuff like that. And I see similarities between the Eagles and the Lions because they're both blue-collared, hard-nosed mentality, and also it's going to come down to defense. And I feel this Lions Commanders game could come down to a fumble or an interception and a turnover.
Yeah, it could, no doubt about that. I think if the Lions control the line of scrimmage as I expect them to, I think they win. I'm not saying blowout or anything like that. I have much more respect for Daniels. This is a guy that has shown he's never truly out of a game. I mean, look at all the close calls that they've had. But I think if you can keep them off the field, you can control the line of scrimmage as we expect them to. I like the chances in this game. And in my mind, it sets up, an NFC championship for the ages, because I fully expect Philly to take care of business at home. And I think a lot of people this year, Chris, maybe 3-4 weeks into the season, started to think, okay, this might be a collision course with Philly and Detroit. And I think we're heading that way.
Fingers crossed. The Eagles have their own injuries with Nakobe Dean. They're one of their top linebackers. He's done for the year, so they're going to bring in a rookie, Trotter Jr., to come in, and we'll see how he does. But the Eagles are 6-0 lifetime in divisional games. But you know what? That's in the past. And Sundays, and that's what I love about these games. One bad game, and you're out.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't want to completely dismiss the Rams, because this is a team that has been there and done that. And Matthew Stafford got the monkey off his back, obviously, a few years back. I don't want to completely dismiss them, but when you're playing in the elements in front of that crowd, that can be difficult for anybody. I mean, I'll tell you point blank, I thank God the Lions would be at Ford Field in a potential matchup. I don't think anybody wants to go there. I don't think anybody wants to play in front of that crowd in the elements. No doubt about that. And that's why I think for me, Chris, getting the number one seed was of the utmost importance. I mean, look, we've seen teams make miraculous runs. And I remember a few years back, the Giants got in the last game of the year and then made that crazy run and knock off the Patriots and everything. But I think home field advantage could be in the key on operative word, could be huge. But this week, yeah, if you're Philly, I love the fact that you're at home against this Rams team.
What makes Jaden Daniels so special? I had the privilege of speaking to him at the NFL draft in Detroit, and what makes him dangerous? And do you see a little bit of similarities between him and Josh Allen? I know that's not fair to compare, but Daniels also can beat you with your legs as well. So, do you feel the Lions will have a spy on him specifically?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think that's a crazy comparison at all. I mean, you're talking about two quarterbacks that can keep plays alive. You're talking about two quarterbacks that, if you leave any time on the clock, you are living very, very dangerously, and that's what he's done so far in this league. I mean, again, all you have to do is look at their schedule and look at all the close games that they've had, and how they've come up big on literally the last play of the game. So yeah, you have to give him a ton of credit. Rookie quarterbacks are not supposed to come in the league and perform as he did. And we saw it last year with CJ Stroud, and then he kind of took a step back this year. A lot of that had to do with certainly the issues on the line with Houston. But my goodness gracious, has Daniels been a weapon this year. And it's going to be really fun to see how far he goes up throughout his career.
Sean, what is the current mood of the Lions fan base and the media heading into this game against the Washington Commanders? And is this the biggest game for the Detroit Lions since their 1957 championship season?
Well, boy, it's tough to say because, last year, the championship game at Frisco, and then, obviously 2 weeks ago, the winner take all, get the number one seed, win the division is tough. But I guess this is the next biggest game. How's that? Because, yeah, it's huge. Look, the Lions are in a position right now, Chris, if somehow, some way the Commanders win this game, what does the season mean? Everybody's goal was to get to the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Everybody in that franchise, every person in the fan base. So I think because of that, yeah, there's an inordinate amount of pressure. And if you and I talk next week, I say the same thing about the Eagles game. If you lose in the NFC Championship game again, and Philly is the representative, I think that's what a lot of people would be saying. Okay, cute year and everything, but you weren't able to take the next step. They threw down the gauntlet very early. They said it's all about taking that next step. And, they put themselves in the best position possible to that end. So, I mean, you want home field advantage. Ford Field is a tremendous home field advantage. So, yeah, that's the position that they find themselves in.
Washington lifetime is 31-16 against the Lions and 3-0 in the playoffs, but two of those losses were back in the 80s and early 90s at RFK Stadium. I guess these teams haven't met in Detroit since 2022. The Lions have won their last 5 matches against the Commanders at Ford Field, so it's going to be interesting. But I got to ask you this, Sean. What are some keys to a Lions win over the Commanders, in your opinion?
I'm going to start with that which you and I have hit on a couple times ago. Control that line of scrimmage. As you mentioned very early, they can be run on, and the Lions can run. And I'm not saying that this is going to be a road graders type of game, because I think then you're taking Jameson Williams out of it. You're taking Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're taking a couple different tight ends out of it. I'm not saying it's going to be that type of game, but yeah, if you can put together those time-eating drives and keep Jaden Daniels off the field, I think you're the better for it. Look, if this is a shootout, I still like the Lions' chances. I'm not going to lie. I don't think the Lions' offense gets enough credit, quite frankly. But I'd rather have the ball as opposed to having the ball in Jaden Daniels' hands, if you know what I mean. So I think first and foremost, it starts there. And containment. I think that's what you hear with any guy that can hurt you the way that a guy like Jaden Daniels can hurt you. Contain. I think you do those things, and the Lions end up winning by 10 points in this game.
Also, too, when Philly was there a few weeks ago in Washington, they were up to a 14-0 lead. Obviously, Hurts left with a concussion, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson got kicked out of that game. But with that Commanders team, when you get in the red zone, you need touchdowns, because Philadelphia scored 4 or 5 field goals off of turnovers. Washington turned that ball over 5 times in that game, and all the Eagles could get was field goals. And to me, that's going to be huge if the Lions red zone offense can put in touchdowns instead of field goals, and don't take your foot off the pedal against this Commanders team. Philadelphia found that out about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's one thing that Dan likes to go for 7 as opposed to 3. Look, if you're outside of the red zone, or you're looking at 4th or 7 or something like that, obviously it's a different situation, but you've seen it as much as I have. I can't tell you how many times it's 4th and 3 at the 7-yard line and he's going for it. And more often than not, it ends up in the end zone, not even the first down. So, yeah, that's one thing that's huge with Dan. 7s beat 3s. So, hopefully that'll be the situation this weekend at Ford Field.
Sean, who are some Lions that could stand out in this game against Commanders and an X factor for Detroit specifically?
I'll start with Alex Anzalone. Again, if people aren't familiar with him, I think you'll get acquainted with him very quickly. He's playing with a cast on his arm. He has a broken arm, and he is such a huge factor to this team. I think Za'Darius up front is a guy you can't put a price tag on the impact that he has made to this team. And boy, you think if we didn't find a way to pick him up, what might this season be after the injury to Aiden Hutchinson? So, defensively, I start there. One little factor, I know we talk so much about the running game. Washington employs a lot of man coverage, and Jared Goff just feasts on man coverage. He really does. And Jared Goff is a perfect example of what we see every year in the National Football League. If you can protect your quarterback, a guy in this league can be a surgeon, and they've done a good job of protecting him. And if they stay in man, he could really feast as well.
I'm old school. I really think all these games this weekend are going to come down to the offensive lines and the defensive lines, and I think that's going to be huge in this game against specifically between Detroit and Washington. If Detroit can't get any pass pressure on Daniels, he could pick you apart too. That's going to be huge. So I think it's going to come down to the O lines and D lines. And Sean, what's your thoughts on the lines secondary? Do you find they're underrated, especially with Kirby Joseph?
I think the safeties are immensely underrated, both of them. I think Branch and Kirby Joseph. Kirby, just look at the picks. My goodness gracious. And a lot of times he's just a ball hawk. And obviously, I think people are aware of Branch. And, the much maligned Terrion Arnold has really improved as the season gone on. It's not easy for a rookie cornerback in this league. I don't care who you are. It's not easy for a rookie cornerback in this league. There's so much going on. And I think he's a guy that as you watch the games, you've seen him go up and do a really good job this year.
And the Eagles have a couple of rookies in their secondary too. Cooper DeJean from
Mhm.
Iowa and Quinon Mitchell from Toledo. They've both been outstanding, and it's been amazing to see how rookies can impact in the NFL coming from college football. And Sean, since you you cover college football with Wayne State, how much has college football gotten these guys ready for the NFL?
Oh, it's huge now. It really is. It's incredible. I think back to the days of guys like you and I growing up, and the Bill Parcells. I don't like rookies because they screw up. These guys are prepared. There are camps now. There's Senior Bowl. There's so many different things that give them an advantage to that which the guys had many, many years ago. And the talent has improved. I used to call Toledo football many, many years ago, and the Mid-American Conference was quietly a very good conference. Well, the secret's out now. You see teams winning. You see guys moving on to the NFL left and right, including a guy that you just mentioned. So, it's no surprise to me that that's happening. But as football has continued to grow, I think development and preparation has continued to grow. And that's why a lot of times – the rookie leash, so to speak, or the timing in which they feel a guy is ready to be unleashed seems to be getting shorter and shorter.
Hey, Sean, I wanted to get, before I wrap this up with you in a couple of minutes, what are your thoughts on these teams interviewing guys right now? Like, I know the Eagles, Kellen Moore is being interviewed by Dallas, and obviously Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. I really think they should have to wait until the end of the season or after the Super Bowl. I just think it's a distraction, in my opinion.
I think it is too, but I don't think it's going to stop because the NFL has become, as you know, a 24/7 news cycle and almost 365 days a year, and so teams need to be prepared for what's next. Teams need to be prepared for March 1st. Teams need to start preparing for the draft and everything. I agree with you. Don't get me wrong. I wish, you could put a moratorium on it, a freeze on it or anything, but the reality is, I mean, the NFL is a 24/7 cycle. It really is. And that's part of the price of doing business, I think.
And Sean, I know Wayne State had a tough season, 2-9, but I see they finished the season with back-to-back wins. And just quick thoughts on the season and at least winning those back-to-back games to finish the season out on a positive note.
Well, it's a process, it really is. When you have a new coach come in, as Tyrone Wheatley came in a couple of years ago, it isn't just about the guys coming in. It's about what do we have here, and are they guys that are going to buy into our program? And so we've seen a lot of guys leave. That's certainly the prerogative. You wish them the best. There's no doubt about that. But it's about getting in the right players and the guys that fit your system and buy into your system. So it's been a process. We're all hoping for a big step next year. Tyrone Wheatley is a guy, I mean, one of the most heralded athletes ever out of the state of Michigan, before he started at the University of Michigan, went in the National Football League. So he's a guy that's been there and done that, and I think has a good eye for talent. So hopefully they can take that proverbial next step in the fall of 25.
And you also got to give a new coach more than 1 year, because I think Mayo and New England had a raw deal. You have to give a new coach, to me, NFL college football, you got to give them at least 3 or 4 years to turn around a program.
No, I tend to agree with you there. I mean, Tyrone Wheatley's only had 2 years. He took over a very tough spot. Make no mistake about that. So, let's see what it looks like at the end of the year. Let's have a conversation. If they take a step up, a lot of those conversations go away. If they are still languishing, well, then maybe you have to start having some tough conversations. But he's a guy that I think everybody that knows him, he's looking straight ahead. He's planning for the future. So hopefully that future is bright.
Quick thoughts on the national championship. This is a nightmare for me because I'm not an Ohio State fan and I'm not a Notre Dame fan. So I'm actually going to have to go for the Irish. So what's your thoughts on Ohio State and Notre Dame?
I'm surprised at all the people crying about the fact that it's Ohio State and Notre Dame. Isn't this what we all clamored for? Settle it on the field. These are two teams that earn their way there. You can say whatever you want about them. You can call them frauds. You can say they're not good. You could say Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. You could say Ohio State lost to Oregon and Michigan. Yep. But at the end of the day, when you get into the playoff, it's all about settling it on the field, just like the National Football League. How did everybody think about the New York Giants? They beat the Dallas Cowboys the last game of the year, gone in at 9-7. Caught fire, got healthy at the right time, and went and won a Super Bowl. I think that's what a playoff's all about to me. And so I think it's fantastic. I got sick and tired, Chris, at the end of the year of people said, well, it should be this team. It should be that team. Well, when you sell it on the field, you can't have those arguments anymore. On that day, my team was better than yours. Period. End of story. So, listen, I'll take it to, hey, if Philly comes in next week and beats the Detroit Lions, I don't want to hear anybody say we were better than Philly. No, you weren't. Philly came into your barn and knocked you off. Okay. They're going to play for the Super Bowl. Well, we were the number 1 seed. We had a better record. Oh, well,
Yep.
And so I think
Oregon.
I think to hear all the crying over it is kind of weird to me, especially I know a lot of those same people out of the other side of their mouth were talking about how I wish we could settle it on the field. So, when the opportunity comes up, God forbid, for Michigan or Michigan State or whoever, I think this is a situation. Let them settle it on the field. Don't talk about, well, we know the SEC is better. Now you have a chance to say, oh, do we? Because here we are, this Big Ten team, this ACC team just knocked off an SEC team. So to me, settle it on the field.
As much as it pains me to say this, I got to pick Ohio State to win this game. Ryan Day, he's faced a lot of criticism and a lot of hate towards him, but he's managed to get this team to play together and better defensively. And Notre Dame's had a great run, and they can win this game. But I just think the Buckeyes are a little bit stronger. I just think they're going to win this game, in my opinion, Sean.
No, I agree with you, man. I really do. And they've got the best wide receiver in college football, who I think people now are finally realizing just how good he is, including perhaps some of the staff on Ohio State. Like, where was that earlier in the year, in particular the Michigan game? But I agree with you. Total tip of the cap to Notre Dame, but I think too much Ohio State in this one.
And finally, Sean, just quick thoughts on the other games: Houston and Kansas City, Rams and Philly, and Buffalo and Baltimore on Sunday night at 6:30 in a 8-degree frigid Orchard Park, New York.
Yeah, all the people that thought that might be, 48, 45 or something. I'm not so sure about that. I think that weather, in my opinion, favors Baltimore. We'll wait and see how it plays out. Kansas City, I've said it all year. I pay no attention to their slow roll. I don't care what anybody says. They've been there. They've done that. They can flip the switch. Everybody should be terrified of the Kansas City Chiefs. Everybody should be terrified of the Kansas City Chiefs. I said at the beginning of the year, Chris, I think they're going to be the first-time three-state Super Bowl champion. We'll wait and see how that plays out. And then the other one, to me, as we talked about earlier, if this was in LA, I would be really intrigued at the Rams in Philly. It's not in LA. It's in Philly with that home field advantage in that weather. I got to like the Eagles in that one.
Jalen Hurts came off a concussion last week. He was efficient. He wasn't great, but I do believe they're going to try to attack the Rams and get A.J. Brown involved, because A.J. Brown is too good to only have one catch, 10 yards. So I think A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Grant Katera, I think the passing game is going to get going against the Rams. And Saquon Barkley had 255 against them last time. Doesn't need to do that this time here in Philly. I just think the Eagles will get their passing game going, and I think they'll win this game. And their front four is very good, and I think they're going to be able to get to Stafford. Stafford's a great pure passer, but he's not like Allen and Daniels as a quarterback with his legs.
No, I think that's an astute point, and props to the Rams. They righted the ship during the course of the year. I just think too much Philly.
Sean McVay's done a hell of a job with that team too. They've won 10 out of their last 13 games. So, Sean, are you going to the Lions Commanders game at Ford Field?
No, you know what? I did my 20 years down there, and I have a pregame show that we're doing at an establishment, Second Best Bar in Detroit. And as soon as the pregame show is over, I am heading straight home to sit on my couch and watch a game. Honestly, Chris, after 20 years at Ford Field, almost every single week, I really forgot how much fun it is to sit at home and watch games. So I'm looking forward to making a fire and sit in front of the game and watching it that way.
How can is this post game show going to be live streamed?
Yeah, we've got it. It's at Woodward Sports. I'm doing some stuff with Woodward and FanDuel as well. So we're going to be on from 1 to 3 on Woodward Sports, and really looking forward to it from Second Best Bar in Detroit.
One of my friends from Buffalo, New York, Rob, is watching. He's got his own podcast show. He's picking the Rams over the Eagles, and he's mad because I've got the Ravens over the Bills. But I think all these games are going to be really competitive and close this weekend as well.
I'm a huge Josh Allen fan. I hope I'm wrong, but I feel the same way as you. I think if the weather conditions are like that, you've got Lamar Jackson, you have that beast in the backfield. My gosh, every time you want to write that guy off, he does something like he did last week. And I think just a little too much Ravens. I really do.
Absolutely. And finally, Sean, where can my audience follow you on social media? Best place to contact you, and maybe some of your upcoming media work.
Yeah, I'm Sean P. Bally on Twitter. I'm on Facebook as well, doing things for state champs, doing a few things for FanDuel, and hopefully more in this new year, and doing a few shows on Woodward Sports as well. So a lot of fun, Chris. I've been fortunate that I've been able to do this for about 30 years now.
Absolutely. And I'm going on my 5th year, so I'm still kind of a rookie, but I absolutely love it. And it's not work when you have a passion for it.
No, keep doing what you're doing, man. Good stuff.
And you know what? Even though I've got my favorite teams, I love talking to people from other cities and teams. And I do wish the Lions all the best. And I will be watching every single game. And fingers crossed, it's a Philly Detroit NFC Championship game. That's my dream. It's been 30 years since the Eagles and Lions played last at Veterans Stadium, and it's long overdue.
Don't remind me of that game. Oh my goodness gracious, was that ugly? But no, I think that's what we're going to see next week, but we'll find out.
I just wish Barry Sanders and Megatron were on the Lions for this team, because how many years they had great individual seasons on some bad teams. And it's nice to see Detroit get back to being a powerhouse in the NFL, along with the Pistons. And Sean, next time I have you on in the future, we'll have to talk Pistons, because this team is really fun and exciting to watch.
Yeah, you know what? It really is. Cade Cunningham has taken a huge step. I hope the rest of the NBA world has taken notice. And huge game tonight, and certainly playing for a legitimate playoff spot too. So that's pretty cool.
All right. Well, Sean, thank you so much for giving us 40 minutes. I apologize for keeping you 10 minutes over, but I really enjoyed talking about the Detroit Lions and the NFL with you. And I can't wait to get back to Detroit again at some point. It's a great sports city.
We'll do it again soon, Chris. Thank you for having me.
For sure. We'll talk to you soon, Sean. Have a great day.
You too, buddy.
All right, guys, that concludes season 9, episode 41, overall 481 of Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership and Wellington Brewery here in Guelph. My next Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show, again sponsored by BarryCullen.com and WellingtonBrewery.ca, is going to be on Saturday, January 18th at 10 a.m. That's 10 a.m. with my guest and friend, Pat Bernard. He is a sports reporter in Philadelphia, and he's also with Stream Punk Entertainment, a network my show's on. And Pat Bernard's going to come on, and we're going to talk National Lacrosse League, Philadelphia Wings. He's a reporter for the Philadelphia Wings. So we're going to talk about the Philadelphia Wings Buffalo Bandits matchup this Saturday night, 7:30 at the KeyBank Center in Buffalo. And Pat Bernard's going to also talk to us about the Eagles and Rams at Lincoln Financial Field. So if you're a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles, the Philadelphia Wings of the National Lacrosse League, check out Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show this Saturday, 10 a.m. And it's going to be a great show with Pat Bernard and myself. And it's a great sports weekend for the National Football League and also the National Lacrosse League as well. And before we wrap this show up, guys, I'm going to give you guys my NFL divisional round picks, and I'd love to hear some comments and feedback. I don't expect everybody to agree with me, but we're going to play this clip right now, courtesy of my YouTube channel. And make sure you subscribe to Live with CDP Chris Pame on YouTube. Chris Pame here with my NFL divisional round picks for Saturday and Sunday's games. The first game is going to be the upstart Houston Texans taking on the Kansas City Chiefs Saturday at 4:30 at Arrowhead Stadium. The Texans are coming off a big playoff win at home against the LA Chargers, but they're going to be facing a Kansas City Chiefs team that's been healthy and well-rested for the last 3 weeks. And with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Hollywood Brown, Isaac Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, Chris Jones on the defense, I see the Chiefs winning this game 27-14. That's 27-14 Kansas City, as the Chiefs are going to try to be the first NFL team to ever three-peat as Super Bowl champions. The next game Saturday night is an NFC divisional round playoff game between the upstart and very hungry and very talented Washington Commanders team led by head coach Dan Quinn and the NFL Rookie of the Year and should be an MVP candidate as far as I'm concerned, Jaden Daniels, taking on Jared Goff, Ahmed St. Brown, and those Detroit Lions at Ford Field at 8 o'clock. The Detroit Lions are the favorites, of course, but I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders as an upset. They scored 36 points a couple weeks ago on the number one defense in the National Football League, the Philadelphia Eagles, not the Detroit Lions. Lions do have some injuries still on their defensive side of the ball. I really feel all the pressure is on the Detroit Lions, being at home at Ford Field and reading their media attention and all their clips. And the Lions, on my head, say should win this game. But I'm going to go with the Commanders. I feel the Commanders are going to upset the Lions. I think I'm going to go with Washington 30, Detroit 27, and an upset. And then the Sunday's divisional games. The first one is at 3 o'clock. Matt Stafford and the red-hot Los Angeles Rams, led by head coach Sean McVay, go to Lincoln Financial Field and take on the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles and Rams already played this season in November of 2024 at SoFi Stadium, and the Eagles won 37-20. Saquon Barkley, 255 yards rushing, a franchise record. A.J. Brown, well over 100 yards. Jalen Hurts was efficient in that game with 179 yards passing. The Eagles are relatively healthy in this game, except for the injury to linebacker Nakobe Dean, who's going to be out for the year. So it looks like Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is going to be replacing him as linebacker. The Rams are coming off a big win over the Vikings on Monday Night Football at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Of course, Matt Stafford's the red-hot quarterback, Super Bowl champion. The Rams have a very good offense, but I feel the Eagles are a better all-around team, and I see the Eagles winning this game. I think the Eagles are going to get their offense or their passing attack going as well. I see the Eagles winning this game 30-24. That's Philadelphia 30-24 over the Rams. And the Eagles will advance to the NFC Championship game. And then the last game this weekend is going to be Sunday night at 6:30. Lamar Jackson, the MVP the last 2 years, along with Derrick Henry and head coach John Harbaugh, take on the Buffalo Bills at Highmark Stadium. The Bills are the underdogs in this game by, I think, 1.5 points. The Ravens and Bills have met this year, and the Ravens crushed Buffalo 35-10. Baltimore is a better football club than they were in November. Buffalo is still a solid football club, but I'm going to go with the Ravens. I think Lamar Jackson has something to prove, not just being an MVP. I think they're capable of beating Buffalo in Buffalo, and I'm going to go with the Ravens to win this game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think the Ravens are going to win this game 34-31 on a last-second field goal by Justin Tucker. He is an X factor for the Ravens. He's a Hall of Fame kicker, but this year he's had a miserable year. The toughest in his career. I think Justin Tucker is going to come through with a game-winning field goal at the end, and I think Buffalo's going to have heartbreak again. So Baltimore wins 34-31. So again, to recap my picks, guys, I'm going with Kansas City, Washington, Philadelphia, and Baltimore to win. I hope everybody enjoys the games, and please comment on this and let me know if you agree with my picks or you disagree, okay? Anyways, as always, go Birds, fly Eagles fly, and we'll talk to you soon after the playoff divisional games this weekend. That was courtesy of my YouTube channel, Chris Palme Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. Let me know in the comment sections if you agree with my picks or you disagree. I think all 4 games can go either way. Even Houston, I wouldn't count them out against Kansas City, even though the Chiefs are at home. The Chiefs haven't really played a meaningful game in over 3 weeks, so don't count out Houston. And obviously, Buffalo has a good chance of beating Baltimore. I did say 34-31 in a high-scoring game, but the weather in Buffalo Sunday night is supposed to be only 8 degrees, windy, and I guess they're expecting snow. So weather could impact the offenses in this game as well as the field conditions. So we'll have to wait and see there. And I'm also looking forward to the Commanders-Lions game. Yes, the Lions should be the favorites. They're at home. They were in the NFC Championship game last year. But don't count the Washington Commanders coming out. As an Eagles fan, we played Washington twice this year. Jaden Daniels is not your typical rookie. So for the Detroit Lions to win this game, and Sean Baligian agree with me, the Lions' red zone offense has got to get touchdowns because field goals will let Washington stay in this game. And if you let Washington hang around until the 3rd or 4th quarter, they could come back to bite you. So for the Detroit Lions, they need to get off to a strong start, get that crowd at Ford Field involved in the game, put the Commanders down because teams aren't as good as when they're chasing other teams. So a huge start to this game. It's important for each game too. Last year, Houston had a big lead, I think, 21-0 over Kansas City, and they ended up losing 51-31. So Houston knows what they have to do too. So I'm looking forward to both games. Saturday, 4:30, Houston, Kansas City, 8 o'clock, Washington at Detroit, and then Sunday, 3 o'clock from Lincoln Financial Field, the Rams and Eagles. The Rams are a good team. I think they're going to give the Eagles a tough battle, but I think the Eagles are a better team, and being at the Link helps as well. And then Buffalo, Baltimore, it's a toss-up. I picked Baltimore to win this game, but Buffalo is more than capable of winning this game, and it's going to be interesting to see how much weather will impact this game as well. All right, guys, Wellington Brewery, one of my sponsors, was founded in 1985. They're located at 950 Woodlawn Road West in Guelph, Ontario. Check out their website, wellingtonbrewery.ca. Telephone number 519-837-2337. Try a Wellion and remember to drink responsibly. Take the party anywhere with our Zero Proof 24 pack. Enjoy our refreshing and non-alcohol options and save with this mixed pack of 24 cans by 355 milliliter mixed pack of Sinatra Sparkling Hop Water, Cascade Sparkling Hop Water, Mucho IPA, and Palmies Anytime Cider. They should name that after me. Guaranteed fresh and full of flavor. This mixed pack is perfect for any occasion. 6 cans by 355 milliliter cans each. Sinatra Sparkling Hop Water, Cascade Sparkling Hop Water, the Mucho Non-Alcoholic IPA, and the Palmies Anytime Non-Alcohol Cider. You can get more information at wellingtonbrewery.ca or pop by and see Wellington Brewery at 950 Woodlawn Road West in Guelph, Ontario, not far from my other sponsor, Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in Guelph. Speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet, at Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, save the tax on winter tires. If you're looking for winter tires now's the time to buy them at Barry Cullen Chevrolet. You can save 13% off. Winter tire clearance is on at Barry Cullen Chevrolet. You can save up to 13% on Barry Cullen's winter tires. Purchase 4 identical in-stock winter tires and ride out the rest of the winter season with a peace of mind. More details at barrycullen.com or pop by the dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West here in Guelph, Ontario. If you're looking to adopt a pet, check out the Cambridge District Humane Society, 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario. Telephone number 519-623-7722, extension 0, or visit their website, cambridgehumanesociety.org. All the animals that are up for adoption, their profiles are on the website. And if you're looking to volunteer like I am, click on the volunteer application form on their website and you can do that as well. And they're also doing a raffle draw as well. You can buy tickets on their website, cambridgehumanesociety.org, and click on events as well. And they're still selling 2025 Cambridge District Humane Society calendars for only $10, and the money all goes to the programs at the Cambridge District Humane Society as well. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is live streamed on these platforms. YouTube, which I just mentioned, Facebook, Twitter, X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. Please follow and hit the like notifications as well. I do have a website if you guys want to check it out. It's on beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. All my social media sites and all my previous radio talk shows are on beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. Check it out. You can also follow this content creator on TikTok at Live with CDP. Been with TikTok for over 4 years now, and I want to say thank you to my 2,621 followers. So check me out, and if you like my content, hit the follow notification as well, and I post a lot of great content there as well. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you're into webinars, live streaming, podcasting, check out StreamYard.com. And if you're a business that does a lot of webinars or live streaming, StreamYard.com and contact the sales department. I've been with StreamYard now for well over 4 years, and I give them a big thumb up. So for live streaming, check StreamYard, who is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, the audio versions on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, Tuned In, YouTube Music, and Good Pods, please hit that subscribe and like notification. Finally, guys, you can email the show at live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show at cpame19@gmail.com. I am also on PayPal if you'd like to help support my radio and media work. cpame19@gmail.com on PayPal. And also, I am on Cameo. If you'd like a personalized video message from yours truly, Chris Pame, CDP, check out cameo.com, type in Chris Pame, and book your Cameo today. Again, I want to say special thanks to my guest from Detroit, Sean Baligian, for coming on here today. And I'm really looking forward to these games as well. So thank you to Sean Baligian for coming here. And we'll definitely try to get Sean back on my show again in the future. And also, guys, I am now on Blue Sky. You guys can follow me on Blue Sky at live CDP19 period bsky.social. So Blue Sky is sort of like what Twitter used to be, and I'm on there at live with CDP19.bsky bsky.social. And that's about it. Again, thank you to Sean Baligian for coming on, the longtime Detroit media radio personality. And I hope you guys can join me on Saturday, January 18th, 10 a.m. Eastern. I know it's in the morning, with my special guest and a friend of mine, Pat Bernard from Stream Punk Entertainment. Shout out to Scott Churchson as well, because I'm part of his network. 10 a.m. and Pat and I are going to talk National Lacrosse League action between the Philadelphia Wings, Buffalo Bandits this Saturday night at 7:30 at the KeyBank Center. I will be back in Buffalo at the KeyBank Center on Saturday, February 1st is my next game to cover the Bandits. And Pat's also going to talk to us about the Eagles-Rams matchup at Lincoln Financial Field and what the Rams might do differently than they did in their 37-20 loss to the Birds in Los Angeles in November. So I'm really excited to have Pat Bernard on as well. And the Small Talk podcast returns for season 3, episode 1 on Tuesday, January 21st at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 on the West Coast, with a special guest, along with my co-host, Marlene Sherp, who's returning to the show for her second year as well. So Small Talk podcast is back Tuesday, January 21st at 8 p.m. I want to say thank you to everyone watching today's show live streamed and on audio platforms. And to my sponsors, Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership and Wellington Brewery here in Guelph. And I'm also looking for more sponsors. So if you're looking to advertise on my talk show, please DM me on my social media pages or at cpame19@gmail.com. My rates are more reasonable than your traditional radio stations rates are. So please consider coming aboard live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show, the Small Talk podcast, the Argo Bounce Live audio show as a sponsor as well. And that's about it. Again, I want to say thank you to Sean Baligian for coming on today and talking Lions, Commanders, and some National Football League with us as well. Sean Baligian is on Twitter, X, so please look him up there as well. And that's about it. I hope everybody has a great afternoon, and I will be watching the Pistons Pacers game tonight at 7 o'clock from Little Caesars Arena. Big game for the Pistons. Indiana has, I think, a half a game lead over Detroit in the standings, and it's going to be a great game at Little Caesars Arena. And the Red Wings are back in action tonight. The Red Wings are on the road tonight, I should say, against the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Red Wings are trying to bounce back from a 6-3 loss to San Jose at Little Caesars Arena on Tuesday night. So Red Wings and Pistons both tonight. And looking forward to the NFL divisional games as well. So again, thank you to Sean Baligian, and I hope everybody has a great afternoon, great evening, and we'll see you back here Saturday at 10 a.m. with Pat Bernard talking Philadelphia Wings and Philadelphia Eagles football. Have a great day, everybody, and thanks for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show.